Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right, looking at this now the preferred bidder of this Afam plant, I know this has gone on for quite a while. I'd like you to tell me on what it means first to be in the preferred bidder and how the process has gone by so far to get to this point.
We're very excited about this. Transcorp has been the leader in the generation business, and with this, we're actually going to be consolidating on that leadership. If you take you back, our guiding philosophy and what we've envisioned in Nigerian power space, we want to be able to generate power for 1 out of every 4 Nigerians. So this is a measure to actualize that dream, that vision. And on the Afam bid, Afam is the oldest power plant in Nigeria. It's the very first ever, and it's got 966 megawatts capacity. But what is even more fascinating, among that is 240 megawatts brand new by GE Fast Power. So together, altogether, acquiring and install capacity at about 105.3 billion, less than $300 million, for us is a great deal. And we went through that process through the National Council on Privatisation, the Technical Committee, the BPE, and emerged as the preferred bidder. So for us, it's a dream come true. It's something we're looking to further demonstrate our commitment to Nigeria and to the power space, because ultimately we want to be able to impact and help to transform Nigeria.
All right, now I'd like to look at the next steps from it, because I understand that you're still need to negotiate the terms of the transaction with the VP.
Yes.
I would like to understand how that will play out.
So typically, after a bid process, the outcome is taken to the National Council on Privatisation. So that was what was approved last week. So with this, we have now formally emerged as preferred bidder. The next phase is terms of agreement. So we need to engage BPE and negotiate all the sales agreements and also other industry agreements. So what are the conditions to be fulfilled? How do we pay? Over what period of time? When do we take over? What kind of terms are we going to sign with the NBET and other stakeholders, so that as we carry on take over, we can continue to run unimpeded. So that's the process. That we imagine will take another maybe 2 to 3 weeks, depends on how if we're able to meet each other at middle ground.
All right, very important to understand the timelines, but then I want to also get a sense of how this would impact your overall installed capacity.
So with this, we already have 972 installed capacity in Ughelli, the Transcorp Power Limited. With this Transcorp Consortium, which is actually 95% Transcorp and 5% Transcorp Power, together the consortium, we will be adding additional 966, almost getting to 2,000 megawatts. And as we also look to embark on other renewables and other energy sources, we hopefully will become undoubtedly the biggest and largest power generation company in Nigeria.
Yeah, because I understand your ambition is to generate about a quarter of the power needs for Nigeria.
Precisely.
Now let's get into that the area of the mini grids. I understand you also signed an MOU with NG.
Yes, yes.
Can you talk us through how that's
going? NG is one of the biggest players in Europe, is out of France, and we're taking advantage of the opportunity that we see in the space to be able to reach the unreached areas where power can actually be more impactful. Imagine there are a lot of communities in Nigeria that have never tested power because there's no grid that's gone to their side. So bringing this type of innovation, and it's a miracle for them. So that level of impact is actually what's driving our commitment in that regard. And because we're not, it's not an area we specialize in, we brought the global leader, one of the global leaders in this, to partner. And we've put in our bid with the REA, the Rural Electrification Agency, trying to tap into the opportunity that also the World Bank has presented. So that is the plan we have. We've signed the agreement with them, and next is to get into joint development. And as we progress, we will be, of course, carrying the media community.
Okay, but I'd like to get a sense of what your ideal energy mix would be going into the future. So I'm seeing you're doing this with the renewable energy, and I see that you're getting into Afam. You already have Ughelli. But the future energy mix for Transcorp, what is that going to look like?
We are always going to prioritize power, gas to power. Reason is we know the dominance of gas in the Nigerian space. And for us, we're actually deepening our play, not just in the power side, but also in the oil and gas side. We are making acquisitions and looking to exploit our oil assets so we can generate the gas required to power Nigeria. Now, as we do that, we're mindful of the environment. We're mindful of the need to go green. And gas is actually a clean source of energy, but there are cleaner sources like solar, and that's what we're also tapping into to begin to add, especially given the great challenges that we face, transmission issues, evacuation issues that we face. We thought, okay, why don't we find solutions that may be independent of the grid and also even help us achieve our global agenda when it comes to energy conservatism. So that's the plan. So if we're able to have, even if we're up to 10, 15% of energy mix coming from solar, for us, that's impressive.
All right, then, but there's still other issues still in the power sector, and playing in this space, so you're not operating on your own.
Yeah.
But understanding the mix of issues that are in there, one of the one that comes to mind is the recent one around the poor remittances we're seeing in that space, and we saw what the backlash that went with the regulator and EDISCOs in the time past. I understand that there's a new scheme coming out or trying to consider ways to monitor this going back. But for someone who plays in that sector, how are you seeing this on your side?
I think it's positive. See, for us at Transcorp, our dream is to see how we can, in our lifetime, change this country for the better. And before I see a lot of people sit on the corner and just criticize it. The truth is that there's a lot of challenge that we need to deal with. This is many years that we need to get things right. And a lot of efforts being made now will only manifest in the future. But we need to be patient, we need to be methodical, we need to keep at it and keep focused. So what you're seeing is what changes that need to happen to enable this market, the power sector, remain on a sustainable basis. For us at Gencos, we don't have much challenge in terms of our ability to generate. The truth is, if I get my gas and get my turbines, I generate. All I need is to make sure that I can evacuate and get discos to distribute, and then eventually get payment. But you find that there's not so much transparency as to and automation when it comes to that remittance. So what CBN, because CBN is actually one of the biggest stakeholders in this market because of the amount of money they've exposed themselves to. So I see them wondering, how do we get the market to operate more efficiently? And to achieve that is to introduce a similar, just like we've always done in other payment mechanism. If I use my debit card swiping on a POS, I know, because I used to play in that market, I know how money is distributed across the merchants, the issuer, the acquirer.
Yeah, all the players in that space.
The same way, that's what they want to achieve with this. We sit down and agree, discos, for the level of input value you're bringing to the value chain, this is your percentage. Gencos, this is it. Transmission company, this is it. Market operator, this is it. Once that's agreed and money comes in from a user like you, we should be able to distribute that money independent of what each or the other person thinks. That's what CBN is looking to achieve. We haven't seen the details of this. We've read this on the media, so we're waiting to see more detail. But I think it's a very welcome development.
Yeah, very welcome in there. But let me now switch to another side of your business, which is the hotel industry. I understand you just received that certificate of discharge. I'd like to know what it means to power and and the time frame on how this is going and what it means for Transcorp going forward.
So for us, I am very proud to talk about our quest and adventure in the hospitality, the flagship business we started out with. And not because I used to spearhead that for 7 years, but also because that is one hotel, especially the property we have in Abuja. Remember, we have another in Calabar. But that one in Abuja is one of the best things that have happened to this country. Why do I say this? This is where we will receive and welcome the biggest and the best of our guests around the world that visit from around the world to Nigeria. And we have managed to show a very positive representation of Nigeria. That hotel is a Nigerian icon. And what we always do, we go beyond just the demands of business to recognize that this is what the Nigeria that a lot of world community see. So what we always try to do is to make sure we spend nothing when it comes to customer service and building on infrastructure. So to have volunteered $100 million at the time we did, to have upgraded that hotel, 30-year-old hotel, infusing another 20-year life into it, and bringing modernity and class to it. So obviously, with all that we've achieved, we've actually more than surpassed expectations when we bought this company from the hotel from government. And before now, we've received a lot of visits from the privatization committees of both the Senate and the House of Reps. And they actually had adjudged us the best example of privatization. And so what NCP has done by finally issuing a certificate of discharge is basically saying, you guys have done well. We do not need to monitor you ever. And for that, I think it's something to be applauded. All
right, then I'm afraid that's all we have for this show. But very good luck with Transcorp Hotels, and interesting work you're doing with that. And we'll see how